So does anyone want to suggest anything?
Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I don't, not at this moment.
Well, then I've been a topic that's been going around in my head is the difference between Diksha-guru and Shiksha-guru. Like, what is the importance of each? The difference between the two?
Jason's putting his thumbs up. And here's Jaya Dave. Yeah, that's always a great topic. And Chintamani Dandavat. So the difference between Shiksha-guru and Diksha-guru.
And the importance of each, like what they signify in our lives.
Okay. Do you have anything in particular that is on your mind about those points that you'd like to share first?
Not particular. I mean, no, not in detail do I have anything, but I just hear different things about the importance of each, and then like Shiksha-guru with a capital S and Shiksha-guru with a small s, and so seems like a very nice topic to discuss and to understand.
Well, okay. Well, we'll start from the beginning. I know Chinmoy Prabhu, actually, he's very learned and realized himself, but for the sake of our group, these are good topics. Welcome, Dana. Well, then literally, we can start with the definition, right? Shiksha is referring to instruction. And so Shiksha-guru refers to one whom we may or may not have a formal connection with, who we may not be someone whom we've accepted a formal initiation from, but who is instructing us, in our development in Krishna consciousness. And also that may or may not be someone who is physically present. That's also possible. More generally, we would use the word to refer to persons who are actively guiding us. But it may also refer to gurus who have left the world, physically speaking, who we may consider them to be Shiksha-guru, in the sense that their teachings, their instructions, which have been left behind in some recorded form, are guiding us. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in one place, he says very nicely, Guru is anyone who is untying the knots of ignorance. Anyone who's helping to untie the knots of ignorance which are binding us, that is Guru. So that is a Shiksha-guru. And we put in our lineage, our gurus, they put emphasis on that over the Diksha connection. Diksha, which refers to, we use the word Diksha to refer to those whom we accept formal initiation from, who are giving us a formal connection to the lineage. But in our line, we emphasize the importance of the Shiksha-guru, the instructing guru, over the Diksha-guru, the initiating guru. And so this is quite, the significance of this may not strike, persons coming from from a Western background, but in the context of the Vedic culture, this is an important distinction to make, because there are many lineages in India which emphasize that bodily connection. Some of them, they run like according to bloodline, so it'll be like a father-son type of thing. And perhaps even mother-daughter in some of these, like some Shakta lineages, I'm not sure. But and then in other cases, it will be, I lost my thought right there. But anyway, there are those, oh yes, that, in a line of gurus, who is the most important will be considered to be the one who is the physical link to the one before. No. So who you took initiation from formerly will be considered to be the most important contributor, the most important person from whom you will take guidance from, and so on. Whereas the Siksa-guru Parampara, our gurus use this term sometimes, Siksa-guru Parampara versus Diksha-guru Parampara. Siksa-guru Parampara would be a lineage which is showing who has made, and this is how our, if you look at our Guru Parampara, if you look at the song, when I say Parampara, I'm referring to a lineage for those who aren't familiar with the term. If we have a song which was written by Bhakti Saraswati, where he lists, in Bengali poetry, those whom he considers to be important members of our Guru Parampara, but it is determined according to Shiksha, not according to Diksha. And by that I mean that he's chosen who to include in that line according to what their contribution was to the message, not whether or not they formally took initiation in the lineage. And so the foremost example of that is Baladev Vijayabhushan, who was present, I think, around the 17 or 1800s. I can't remember right now. Maybe someone can say for sure. But it was a couple hundred years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he formally took initiation within a different Vaishnava lineage. He took initiation in the line of, I believe, Madhva Acharya. But then when he encountered the Gaudiya line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially in the person of Vishwanath Chakravarti, who is a very famous commentator on the scriptures in our line, he met with Baladev Vijayabhushan, who'd taken initiation from another line, met Vishwanath in the Gaudiya line, and he felt wholeheartedly, oh, this is something higher. This is something superior. And so he took shelter of Vishwanath and the Gaudiya line. And then he also made an important contribution. There's a whole story behind that, but we can just, which we won't go into today, but we can just say that he wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta Darshan, which is a very significant work amongst the Vedic texts. So he wrote a commentary on that according to the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was something that hadn't been done before. For some reason, there was some reason why it hadn't been done, which we won't go into today. But he, out of some necessity, he wrote a commentary on that. And so that is considered to be an important contribution to the Gaudiya Vaishnava, canon. And so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati therefore included him, even though he's formally, technically didn't take initiation of the line. So the Shiksha is always given precedence by our gurus. And ideally, the Diksha and Shiksha gurus will be the same, right? Ideally, the person whom we take Diksha from will also be someone whom we take Shiksha from. That would be ideal. Although we may take Shiksha from multiple sources, ideally, like the primary person, I can say in my own case, it is so, that Srila Govinda Maharaj is my Diksha Guru, and I also consider him to be my principal Shiksha Guru. And then so many others I also consider to be Shiksha Guru, primarily Srila Govinda Maharaj. So I feel very fortunate to have that. But then there are other cases where, Vaishnavas who I've heard about, who I know very well, or my friends also, that they've taken initiation they've taken Diksha from one Vaishnava, but they don't feel so much of a connection there, actually. And they get more inspiration from others. So there are cases like that. And one kind of unique example actually is Janardhan Maharaj, who Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj, who's one of the initiating gurus at present in our mission. He had a loving relationship with Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. They had some intimacy. He took first, second, and sannyasa initiation from Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. He also met Srila Sridhar Maharaj, had a nice relationship with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, but he says that he feels his deepest connections with Srila Govinda Maharaj. And he principally feels his connection is with Srila Govinda Maharaj. And I've seen him when he gives initiation, he'll say to people, you know, I've received this name from Srila Govinda Maharaj and I'm giving it to you. You know? So, you know, there's no, how can I say, there's no legislation, you know, over faith. there isn't a formula, you know, that can be applied here. That it is something that will be unique. Every individual will have a different inspiration. Krishna may show himself, Srila Sridhar Maharaj also mentions that Krishna may show himself in different ways through different agents to different persons. And sometimes we see that, you know, sometimes I directly experience, you know, a particular Vaishnava feels so much inspiration for some higher Vaishnava, but the person next to them doesn't see that at all. In the person of someone like Srila Govinda Maharaj, that wasn't really the case, because he was, you know, he's whom we consider to be Jagat Guru, you know, universal guru, someone of such high potency that, you know, anyone who came in contact with him would see that he was infinitely, you know, higher, on a higher level than others. But in the current environment in our mission, I often experience that everyone has very different experiences, different visions of different persons acting as guru within our mission. So, and our Gurudev actually, you know, since we're on the topic, you know, he didn't, you know, sometimes missions, they adopt like a zonal guru system, which ISKCON, I think they used to have it, but I don't think they do that anymore. I'm not really sure. But sometimes missions will have this type of system instituted where there's a particular guru who's in charge of a particular area, and everyone is expected to take initiation in those areas from that person. But our Gurudev didn't like that. And he actually, one phrase he would use a lot in different contexts, he would use it. Shraddha Mayoyam Loka means the faithful plane. So he would say, we are living in the faithful plane. We are living in the faithful plane. And, you know, faith is something free, you know, and it must be allowed to be free. And so wherever an individual's faith goes, we must honor that. So, how am I doing, Chinmay? I don't know, maybe I've gone off in the wrong direction.
Jason has a question in the chat.
Let's see. Jason has a question. What is initiation? There's, I mean, one thing which was coming to my mind, because, you know, actually every point has an infinite discussion around it, you know, so it can be difficult sometimes deciding which way do we go here. See, so Diksha, right? This word Diksha, I was just using it in the sense of someone who is, I'm getting all these notifications on my phone. Turn this off. You know, I was using it now with the connotation of someone who's one's formal guru. But actually the word has much broader, that's not really the meaning of the word. You know? There's one verse which I'm thinking of somewhere in the scriptures, which Srila Sridhar Maharaj quotes, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadvat Korya Papasya Sankshanam. It's saying that Diksha is the process by which Divya Gyan, means divine knowledge is imparted to the disciple, and their sin is removed. So their worldly affiliations, their worldly affinity is gradually removed, and their connection with the higher, and their receiving, absorbing the higher teachings, and not just teachings, but realization. That is what Diksha is. That is what initiation means. And there's another verse which our Gurudev liked in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is saying, trying to remember the Bengali. How does it go? Spoken by Mahaprabhu. How does it go? But it's saying that, how is it? I'm trying to remember. It's Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami. But it refers to initiation as the occasion when the disciple fully surrenders to the Guru. And I can't remember the other things it says in there, but this is the main point that's made. That it's when the disciple fully surrenders to the Guru. That is what initiation means. And so the point that our Guru took from that was, can we say that we're actually initiated if we haven't fully surrendered? But rather we are aspiring, to be disciples. It is. And there was another time when he gave initiation, actually to Govindanandini's husband. He did it over the phone. In some circumstances, initiations are done, and through such means. And our Gurudev mentioned afterwards to his brother, who is Trivikram Maharaj, our leader there, that the initiation depends upon his faith. Like the whole like ceremony surrounding an initiation, it's a formality, which is to support our faith, actually. But the real essence of an initiation is faith. That the disciple is saying, I'm putting faith in you. And the Guru is also saying, I'm making a commitment to support you and to help you, and I'm putting my faith in you also. Oh yes, thank you, Chinmay Guru. Yeah, that's the verse I was trying to think of. Diksha kale bhakta kore atma samarpam. Se kale Krishna tare kore atma sam. Yeah. At the time, kal is time. Diksha kal, at the time of initiation, when the devotee bhakta atma samarpan offers themselves to Krishna. Se kale Krishna tare. Then Krishna makes them as good as his own self. He accepts them as his own self, as part of his own family. So this is really what initiation means, that gradually we are leaving behind our worldly ideas, our worldly affiliation. Not that we necessarily are physically leaving the worldly life, but in terms of how we are identifying ourselves, where we are putting our faith, we are becoming more and more acquainted with and connected with the higher vision. Shastra Chakshu, what is the eye of scripture? What is the eye of Guru? There's one name for the Brahminical initiation is a new, I can't remember the Sanskrit, but the meaning is a new eye. This is another way by which initiation can be conceived, that we are going to read our environment with a new eye, new vision, with spiritual vision. That is really the idea. And why do we even need to take a formal initiation, you may say? That's our way of saying that we're serious. That's our way of saying that No, actually, you could say you don't need a formal initiation, but it's our way of making a commitment. So our Gurudev also referred to initiation as a promise. You know, a promise that we will practice Krishna consciousness no matter what. You know? So we are making that promise. You know, just like if you, oh, I see you're raising your hand, Gangalila.
Oh no, I just wanted to underline it almost like in a more common sense, or what we see more or often around us is people getting married.
Well, that's exactly, you took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah. Actually, Srila Maharaj gives that Upanayan. Thank you, Govind Nandini. What a wonderful team we have here. This is so beautiful. I love having Govind Nandini and Chinmoy in the meetings. Yes, Upanayan, new eye, new vision. That is one way in which the Brahmin initiation ceremony is referred to. So yeah, Srila Maharaj uses that analogy himself, you know, marriage, you know, like so it's like that, you know, and someone could argue, why do you need to do it? But it's something that consolidates the commitment, you know, and it makes it becomes more serious, you know? So, and there's another question here: is second initiation necessary if you don't live next to an ashram? Okay, I'll get to that. Jason, do you want to pick up anything there? How does that answer your question? Oh, and then you're also saying, what commitments does one make? Right. Well, did we clear the first part? Or do you want to? Okay.
Check on the first part. Thank you.
Okay. Then what commitments does one make? I mean, the main commitment is that we are promising to practice Krishna consciousness. But then there are some particular things which are requested, you know, that, you know, it is requested that we try to follow a particular standard of life. On the positive side, to chant a minimum number of rounds, so the disciple will be given chanting beads, and they'll be requested to chant a particular number of, we call them rounds. How many times you go round? And with, you know, with chanting beads, prayer beads. And then also there are what are often referred to as regulative principles, things that we'll try to avoid doing. And that, you know, our Gurudev, you know, he pointed out that these aren't actually Vaishnava principles. These are human principles. You know, these aren't things which will necessarily help us to advance in Vaishnavism, but they will help to keep some clean platform in our life, which will support, like as a structure, will support our spiritual growth, but it won't exactly be the cause of spiritual growth. And those are no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. It's mentioned in the scriptures that particularly in this age of Kali, wow, this is Chinmoy, you brought up a hot topic. We've got all these questions popping up here. I'm surprised. You've got your finger on the pulse. What was I saying now? I got to close the chat. I get distracted.
Kali.
Kali, thank you so much. Yes, Kali is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're in the age of Kali, right? And Kali is a person who likes to instigate quarrel. And so it's said, and there's a whole story behind this, which we won't go into, but it's said that we can avoid that influence if we avoid, or at least minimize it, by that, Kali particularly likes to reside in these places, these 4 places which were just mentioned. And so we can minimize the influence of Kali on ourselves, on our consciousness, by avoiding these things. And that actually they're more important in this age than in previous ages. In previous ages, only the Brahmins really would have been strictly vegetarian, for example. Kshatriyas, right? They're warriors. They needed their meat, Our Gurudev mentioned that Bhima, who's one of the Pandavas, I think you're familiar with the Pandavas of Mahabharata, that our Gurudev mentioned that Bhima, and Bhima is known as being like the big, strong one. He said that he ate 80 kilos of meat every day. So, sometimes our devotees, they get kind of overexcited about this point, or they emphasize vegetarianism or veganism, but that's actually not what we're about. Part of the idea is that in this age, there's more sin attached to that, but primarily the point is that we like to give Krishna what he likes. And Krishna, he doesn't like to eat animals. So we give Krishna what he likes to eat, and we take what's left over. There's this beautiful simplicity in Vaishnavism. Then there's also a 5th regulative principle, which isn't always mentioned, which is hoarding gold. So hoarding money too much, which is really the root of all the others, right? You can't get in trouble with the others if you don't have too much money. Wealth, money holds a lot of weight, a lot of sin to it. If you just think in a common sense kind of way, like what are all the channels through it? We don't want to know actually all the different channels through which our money has come to. We'd be horrified if we were to trace it, right? So Swami Maharaj Prabhupada actually didn't really mention that one. And our Gurudev said, because his idea was that, we will use wealth in the service of Krishna. And he was trying to build a mission. So he needed money. So he just talked about 4 regulative principles, And yeah, so, that's how we try to live, we try to use what little or however much money we have, for what's needed or what is for the higher cause. Otherwise we're going to be connected with the whatever reaction is behind that money, right? So it can be a dangerous game, handling a lot of money. So we have to be careful with it. So yes, those are the main things. Let me see our chat now. There were other questions that came up. Okay, I'll go back. I'll just go through these questions one by one. Anu Krishna saying the 2nd initiation necessary if you don't live next to an ashram. Well, I suppose the reason you're asking that question is because the 2nd initiation qualifies one to do deity service. I would suppose that's why you're asking it the question like that. But that's not the only function of 2nd initiation. It's all for those who aren't following that. So the 2nd initiation is the Brahman initiation, which enables one to, according to the Vedic standards, which we don't necessarily always follow, but we honor them and follow them to the extent that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked us to, simply put, because ultimately Vaishnavism goes beyond any particular, Vedic stipulations, rules, regulations, right? Ultimately, it is very simple Vaishnavism. It is about offering one's heart, and there don't need to be any particular regulations surrounding that. But because we are in a conditioned state, because we are not fully realized, right? We're not in a liberated state, then we follow some regulations, and particularly those that were recommended by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, not just recommended, but which were instituted by him as what we will follow. And that's a whole other discussion. So according to that standard, then to do certain devotional practices like worshiping a deity, a form of the Lord, a figure of the Lord, cooking for the deity and so on, then one needs to have this Gayatri initiation. Is that what we refer to as second initiation sometimes? So I think that's what Anukrishna is referring to. However, that's not the only reason for taking second initiation. Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Gurudev have also explained that the second initiation will support your first initiation, will support the Harinam, that the Gayatri will help to cleanse us and to remove offenses in our chanting of the Maha Mantra. So that is that point is also there. Srila Sridhar, you can read this in Siksa-guru and His Grace again. Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this there. Wow, a lot of devotees are turning up today. Haven't had the chance to say hello to everyone yet. Leela Maduri just joined, and Seva Rupa, Somya Shan's also been with us, Vijay, and Gianna's also with us again. So welcome everyone. And also Radhana Rupini's tuning in from Hawaii. Dandavat to all of you. But in Siksa-guru and His Grace, Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this, and he says that he explains that we can get everything through the chanting of the Maha Mantra. That the Maha Mantra has this special quality that it can take souls from the lowest position up to the highest position. Whereas, these Gayatri mantras, by contrast, you need to have, they require one to be following some Brahminical standard in their life, a particular level of cleanliness. The Gayatri mantras, you need to have some Brahminical qualification, to chant them. But the Maha Mantra, by contrast, anytime, any place, anyone, anywhere, they can chant. So from that lowest level, they can take one to the highest level, Goloka Vrindavan. That is the special quality of the Maha Mantra. However, chanting the Gayatri mantras, they can support our chanting of the Maha Mantra, and they can help to remove our Nama Parad and Nama Bas, offensive chanting, and hazy chanting, the tendencies for exploitation and renunciation in our chanting. So yes, I would say yes, if that second initiation is a good idea for everyone. But you do have to be ready to follow some standard, like you should be, when you chant the Gayatri mantra, and you need to be ideally freshly bathed, but at least clean, and they're supposed to be done at particular time, the 3 junctures of the day, morning, noon, evening. To do all 3 is a bit difficult, but at least you can try for morning and evening. And you're also meant to face a particular direction, east in the morning, and the evening, because I usually face the deities, the directions. That's what Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to do. So I don't know if it's right, but that's what I tend to do. When I chant, I face in the direction, or the altar is where the deities are. But otherwise, if you're not, then I think, is it north you're meant to face in the evening time? Okay, thank you. I should know these things. So it can be a little challenging, but it certainly, if you feel that you're ready to try and do that, then it's definitely a good idea. whether or not you're going to be doing deity service. That's not necessarily a factor. But it may also be a motivating factor to take it if you want to contribute more to a community that you're serving in. And that's also beautiful. Okay, next. I hope that answers your question, Anu Krishna. We'll go on to the next question. I was told by someone that SES Mat discourages people from chanting and Japamala until they take formal initiation. Can you please clarify? You know what's really funny, right? Is that everyone thinks that we're the odd ones out, but actually we're just following the way it was always done. What should, for those of you who aren't familiar with the wider context here, in many Gaudiya missions nowadays, and what was started by Swami Maharaj Prabhupada is that persons are encouraged to start chanting on beads before initiation, like a way of practicing, and connecting with the holy name and getting into that whole spirit before accepting formal initiation. And in some missions, persons will be doing that for years and years before they take formal initiation, if they even take formal initiation. However, but in our mission, we are given chanting beads at the time of initiation, and it's not encouraged to chant on beads beforehand. And so a lot of people in the West, they think we're kind of like strange and they don't understand why, but we're actually following what has been the standard. And what's going on now in other missions is kind of like an anomaly. But it's an anomaly with a good reason. That was instituted by Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, because he was coming to the West and he's dealing with people who don't know anything at all and they need to start with something. And so Swami Maharaj Prabhupada actually did some things which were very different from the Vedic standard or from the Gaudiya standard, because he's a general on the battlefield, right? Time, place, circumstance, and he's doing things, as needed. As on one occasion, someone asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj about one thing that Swami Maharaj did. It was actually, and they still do it today in ISKCON, which is having a fire sacrifice at the time of at the time of first initiation. Because generally, in our mission, and what is traditional, is that the fire sacrifice is held accompanying the Gayatri initiation, the Brahminical initiation. It's connected with the giving of the Brahmin thread. Where was I? Sorry, my brain's a little foggy. Oh yeah, but Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he instituted holding a fire sacrifice at the time of first initiation, which had never been done before. And there was one devotee from ISKCON who later came to Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Maharaj, came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and then they started to develop some broader understanding. And for example, the main point being that the holy name is superior to any fire sacrifice. The name of Krishna is independent and doesn't, because the fire sacrifice is like a ritualistic practice, right? Which has some purpose, of course, but the holy name is far superior to any type of ritual. So it started to click with him. Why would you need to have a fire sacrifice accompanying the giving of the holy name? What is the purpose? What could be the purpose behind that? So then he asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there's a recording, and why did Swami Maharaj Prabhupada do this? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj answered simply, in a time of famine, distribute food by any means possible. So his idea was that, and see, people love fire sacrifices. The fire sacrifice is very impressive. I mean, I can't tell you how many devotees have told me like how exciting and wonderful it is, or even breathing in the smoke, you know, it's very meaningful to them. So when they have a fire sacrifice accompanying their initiation, they take it very seriously. It makes a strong impression on them. It supports their faith. So this was Srila Swami Maharaj's idea, you know. So there were a number of things that he did that were different, but they were unconventional, but they were supporting the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness, right? So now going back to this first question, yes, this has always been the standard. That was the standard in the Gaudiya Math, by Saraswati Thakur's standard, that you receive chanting beads at the time of initiation, and the idea is that the important point here is that we receive the holy name from a Vaishnava. The holy name comes through the channel of the Vaishnava. So this is something that is emphasized so much by our gurus. So that is the real name. And of course, I'm not saying that we want to discount any chanting done before initiation. There's still some connection there, of course, with the name, but the more authentic connection with the name is coming when it has come through a Vaishnava, through the channel of a Vaishnava. So that is why, you know, that is why. And there was one occasion, and welcome, a few others have also joined us. We have a big group today. Ananda Krishna Prabhu has also joined us, and also Ajita Krishna Prabhu Dandavat. And maybe one or two others have also just joined. There was one story, I told this not too long ago, so some of you may be hearing this again. But Akinchan Maharaj, our good friend, he was a sannyasi in our mission. He was previously in ISKCON, and then he came to our mission. And so he came to our mission with a lot of the kind of conventions that he'd been following in ISKCON. And so he came at one time to visit Srila Sridhar Maharaj in Navadvip, and he went shopping one day in the market. He's from South Africa, and he was like preparing for going back to preaching in South Africa. And he bought this big bag of japa malas, like a big bag full of chanting beads. And he was planning to go back. This was something that was very shocking for the devotees in our mat to see, because they'd never seen anything like that. And so somebody mentioned it to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Oh, you know, this Lalita Charan was his name at the time. He's come back from the market with this big bag of chanting beads. And so he went and so Srila Sridhar Maharaj actually called him and, you know, asked him, what are you doing? And then he explained to him very clearly, you know, that, you know, this isn't the real process, you know, but first we must receive the name from a Vaishnava, you know, then we will begin chanting. So, you know, that's not to discount what Swami Maharaj Prabhupada did, you know, or what others are doing. And actually, with Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, because he gave that order, then it becomes bona fide, right? That's another point. So, you know, sometimes devotees from ISKCON, they come to our mission, and then the devotees in our mission are all like, oh, what are they doing? They haven't been initiated and they're chanting on their mala. And, you know, devotees in our mission can get a bit fundamentalist about it. Like, what are they doing? But this is another point, right? And I don't like to disturb them because they're following another order, right? That also came from a Vaishnava. So then that's also something authentic, right? So I hope that answers that question. Let's see, there are more things popping up in the chat. Oh gosh, we've got a lot of things coming up here. Marie is saying about commitments, full surrender to Guru is pretty vague. I used to, okay, well that's gonna, maybe we have to save for next week because that's a long discussion. The thing is though, Marie, that, you know, that's also, it isn't meant to be like like a legal contract, like, and our Gurudev would leave some space, like everything will be revealed to us, and we'll be, this maybe not exactly what I want to say, but according to what we're ready for, that's what I want to say. And we're trying, right? And there's a gradation, and every level has its value. And I can also add to that. It was Janardhan Maharaj, actually. He asked our Gurudev once. I heard this on a recording. When you give initiation to someone, how do you know that they're going back and they're following all these things? These regulations, no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, etc. So how can you really believe that, or that they're going to chant their rounds every day? Like, how can you really believe, right, that they're going to do that? And our Gurudev answered, and he actually quoted that same line, which I mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, that he would use a lot. Shraddha mayoyam loka, the faithful plane. Our Gurudev said, I have to believe. He said, I must. He said, we must believe, because we are living in the faithful plane. We must believe. That was his vision. Like, he's not going to go and examine. He's not going to run a CCTV camera on you to check, whether you're doing these things or not, whether you're avoiding these things or not. But I'm just going to believe that you're going to do it, right? And here's the thing, if that type of Vaishnava believes in us, and we have a drop of sincerity in our hearts, we're going to get there, right? May not be today or tomorrow, but we're going to get there eventually, right? So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Rasaraj Prabhu is commenting here. Is Rasaraj Prabhu still? Yes, he's here. Prabhu Dandavat, I see your comment here. In which situations is it acceptable to take another Diksha initiation? You mean to reinitiate, or do you mean to take a second initiation from someone else?
It's like taking first initiation from a guru, and then eventually, after another one, take an initiation again, first initiation.
I see, reinitiation. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's a tricky one. I would say only in an extreme case. And I can say in the example that we saw with Srila Govinda Maharaj, he would sometimes agree and sometimes not agree. It was on a case-by-case basis. Because, of course, someone of the caliber of Srila Govinda Maharaj, everybody wanted to take initiation from him, right? Even if they already had initiation, there were many who requested to take again from him. And from what I saw and heard, he would sometimes agree and sometimes not agree. And he would only agree if he felt that that person's guru was no longer really connected with the current. But I know of some cases where he said, no, your guru is in a good standing, you don't need to take reinitiation. So I would say if one feels sincerely that their guru has deviated, whether conceptually or in terms of following the sannyas vows, if one feels that their guru has deviated in some significant way, then you can take, and it's acceptable. But if it's simply that you're not inspired by them, that's not a strong enough reason, because then you see shiksha comes in. The shiksha connection can compensate. So even if you don't feel a strong connection with your Diksha guru, that can be compensated for by your relationships with other Vaishnavas. You can take shiksha from other Vaishnavas, and you can consider, this Vaishnava is an honorable Vaishnava. and they're giving me a connection to the Sampradaya. They're giving me connection to our line of gurus. So I'm going to honor that. I don't need to dismiss that or reject that. But I can compensate what I'm missing from them. I can compensate for in my relationships with other Vaishnavas. Because it's not something to be taken lightly. It's not something to be taken lightly, to take reinitiation. That is a very big step, very big thing to do. And another thing is it's not something to rush into. And I know one case where Srila Maharaj advised devotees, wait for 1 year, something like that. He said, wait. And he said, in the meantime, take shelter of the holy name. Wait and see if your guru will come again to the right path. Give him that chance, and yourself that chance. Wait. So it's not it should not be taken lightly. Again, the example of marriage and then divorce, right? Which in our Western modern culture is more and more becoming a light matter. But, in previous times, and especially in the Indian culture, that's just unheard of. It's unheard of to do something like that. So it should be considered very seriously if it is really necessary, and one should consult with other trusted Vaishnavas. Is it appropriate or not? So I hope does that satisfy your question, Prabhu?
Yes, it satisfied my question. Very nice explanation.
Okay, I'm so glad.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Vishakha.
Right. Well, coming to the end of our meeting, does anyone else want to? Now, Lynn has just joined us right in the last few moments. Welcome, Lynn.
Hello, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Does anyone have any final comments before we close for today?
Well, I would just like to also mention, from my understanding too, it seemed like when a lot of people are coming to Srila Sridhar Maharaj in those early days, it seemed like not that they wanted a reinitiation, but they just also wanted a connection with Srila Sridhar Maharaj or Srila Govinda Maharaj. That's kind of my understanding too. So not necessarily a reinitiation, but just a connection with his divine grace as well. I mean, that's just how I feel, but I'm not really sure if you think that's exactly the way it went too. Because like some names were changed, like Maharaj, for example.
Right. But did Srila Sridhar Maharaj do the ceremony again? I don't think so.
Oh, that I don't know. I from my understanding, it was a type of initiation anyways.
Right.
Or
yeah.
Maybe not initiation in the formal sense, but just
right.
Now you have a connection with me as well.
Right. I mean, that is true. And it is a bit different when we're discussing this caliber of Vaishnava. Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, whom we consider to be all Vaishnavas of the highest caliber, Nitya Siddha Vaishnava. There isn't a question. I mean, it is a nice point, and it's not a question of like, redoing, but seeking another connection. But no, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's not that the ceremony was done again. It wasn't exactly that, but in some cases, Srila Maharaj gave another name. So it is like, some connection was established, but not like the formal initiation, a little different from that. And I believe there is one case in the case of Nyasi Maharaj that he'd received second initiation, not directly from Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, but through Ritvik. And through somebody else. And because of some of the circumstances surrounding that Ritvik, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he later gave the mantra also to Nyasi Maharaj, who was Sri Govinda at that time. So that, but that's the only case of something like that which I've heard. But otherwise, I really don't think Srila Sridhar Maharaj or Gurudev would have given again. Unless another case scenario is if someone had lost their beads, right? Then Gurudev, say someone had lost their beads from Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, then Gurudev might chant on those beads and give them, but he wouldn't consider that he was giving them initiation again. But it is also a way of like, establishing some connection, right? So yeah. Krishna Mohini Didi is also just joined us from Spain. Dandavat. Or maybe you've been here some time. I'm sorry. Dandavat Didi. Anyone else want to share any final words in our meeting today?
Just Govinda Maharaj asked me to never let my beads fast.
Nice point. Nice point. Yes. Gurudev really didn't like that anyone's beads would be not chanted on or fasted, he would refer to it. That they spoke of the japa mala, the beads, as a type of deity, actually. And our way of feeding that deity was through chanting. And to the extent that for example, if children if children were not chanting on their beads, and he expected the parents to chant on them. And also there were cases where devotees would lose a set of beads, they'd ask for another one, and then they find their old pair again, then Gurudev would expect them to chant on both. Or another case scenario is someone who's taking beads from Gurudev for somebody else in their home country, but during the course of the journey, which might be a few days, Gurudev expected that someone would need to chant on those beads. So yes, that was something he took seriously, that the beads should not fast. Yeah, nice point, Prabhu. And Suyas Prabhu, you were also about to say something.
Yeah, just two things I remembered. I think in Sri Guru and His Grace, Sri Sridhar Maharaj mentioned concerning the Diksha initiation, it is like the connection of the flow for Shiksha. Like it is the initial connection of the flow for Shiksha from Sri Guru, like revelation from Krishna. Something like that, Sri Sridhar Maharaj mentioned. And there is also that part when we're asking concerning whether we should chant before initiation. Somebody, I think, asked Srila Govinda Maharaj this question, like why in Srila Swami Maharaj allowed to chant before initiation. And then Srila Govinda Maharaj said that Srila Sridhar Maharaj accepted Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada's Shakti Avesh Avatar, so he had the right to change the rules in his society.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Your voice just got distorted for some reason. Maybe when you moved back, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, that's better. But yes, I could hear you. That was very, very nice points that you've added there, Prabhu. And can you say again what it was that you quoted from Sri Guru and His Grace? That was very beautiful. That first thing that you said, can you repeat that?
Yeah, actually, it was like Diksha is the connection for the flow of Shiksha.
Wow, I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. There's a nice harmonizing statement. Very nice, beautiful. Okay, well, maybe we'll close there for today. Oh, it's been a really dynamic meeting. Very, very wonderful, lively discussion today. I hope everybody feels as nourished as I do by having this type of wonderful discussion. And thank you all so much for your association. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki. And there's Vijay Prabhu also. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki. Jai Srila Bhakti
Jai.
Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki. Jai Srila
Jai.
Bhakti Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Jai. All
Jai.
the assembled devotees Ki. Jai. All the world devotees Ki.
Jai.
Jai. All the sincere seekers Ki. Jai. Shri
Hari
Harinam
Bol.
Ki. Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Viva.
Jai
Hari
Vishakha
Bol.
Devi.
Titi Maharaj Ki.